Welcome back, TV historians. We are about to start part 2 of our conversation with author Elva Green. We're talking today about the women characters of TV's groundbreaking hit The Jeffersons, because Elva's recently published a book entitled The Jeffersons, A Fresh Look Back, featuring episodic insights, interviews, a peek behind the scenes, and photos. This was a groundbreaking show, listeners. It was on for 11 seasons. It started in 1975. So yes, we're on the brink of a 50th year celebration. 253 episodes. And as a white person growing up in suburban Minneapolis, it was just one of the TV shows that I got to watch. But I have a feeling that with regard to representation, Elva, that your experience and your kids' experience was different watching that. And so let's talk a little bit about what The Jeffersons meant for Black viewers or even viewers of mixed race.
When I was watching The Jeffersons, I thought they were funny. I watched the show because it was a Black TV sitcom. You know, you got to support your people.
Mm-hmm.
But not only because it was Black. I mean, I watched Laverne and Shirley and Father Knows Best. I'm from that era. So, of course, I watched The Jeffersons because you had to have something. You know, when you got back to wherever you were going the next day, everybody was talking about George Jefferson and the way he walked and the way he danced. And, you know, at the time, George was a big deal. He was so out there. You know, he was liable to say anything. And in the early days, the script did not necessarily contain what today would be, well, say the N word. And I talk about that in the book. And that's one reason that I had John McWhorter do my N word.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those days, you didn't say the N word. You just said the word. George said it. Louise said it when they were upset. Like when Louis Gossett Jr. came on and he tried to hit on George's wife. He got cussed out and put out and called all kind of names by
Mm-hmm.
George. And, you know, everybody, it was cool then. It was like, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I didn't focus on our white people watching The Jeffersons. It just wasn't that big a deal to me at the time. You know,
and my understanding at the time was, I don't know that I necessarily understood that there had been so few TV series that focused on a family, because I was at the age where Good Times and The Jeffersons were just part of the regular lineup.
Exactly. I did a thing on The Kiss, where in the first season, Roxy Roker as Helen Willis and Tom, her husband, who was a white man, kissed, had a full-on passionate kiss. And that evidently was the first time that had happened on television.
Or at least in a sitcom, because the first one was Nichelle Nichols and William Shatner.
Yes.
Star Trek. So this was the first sitcom.
Yeah. And you know what? That one, in fact, affected me more than this one did because William Shatner, you know, he was a good-looking man and she was kind of cute, you know. I was like, ooh-wee.
Did you relate, you know, realizing you were 50 years younger, did you relate to the Louise character? Did you have women like that in your life? Did you have Helen Willis in your life?
I did not have a lady like Louise. She was nothing like, say, my mother or my Aunt Dot, who was in real estate at the time, or my Nana, who wasn't married and traveled and smoked. Roxy Roker, I didn't really know anybody like that. In those days, I already had a child. I was working. I would go to work and then I'd go to babysitters and then I'd come home and cook dinner. The only one was Marla. I knew a lot of Black ladies like in the church one lady that used to sit on her porch all the time and knew all the gossip. She was my babysitter. And she was the only one to me that was like Marla. You know, she said words like child, child this and child that. And Marla, I put this in the book. That's how Marla realized that people liked the Jeffersons, because people would come up to her and tell her, you are just like my grandmother. You're just like that lady in church.
I know one of the things that Norman Lear has said about many of his TV series, or the series that he and others produced, and that was that they were going for the human experience that is common to all of us. You were watching it because it was just funny and well written.
Right.
And often race did not factor into whatever the predicament was that George and Wheezy found themselves in.
Right. You know, you don't really know who is watching.
You know, in sitcoms, obviously, conflict or situations become very funny and comical, and they are often spurred along by a very bold, almost alpha male. And so going all the way back to Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners, you had Jackie, and people could relate to him because there was somebody like that in their circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Archie Bunker, and everybody had somebody like Archie almost in their family, if not, you know, spitting image. And so
right.
For George Jefferson to sort of be that is not altogether unusual, but sort of the manner. I think what a lot of people were able to see is how a woman, particularly a woman of color, Isabel Sanford as Louise Jefferson, was able to pretty much rein George in. You saw that marriage as a very equal partnership, and sort of the sophistication she brought to him was fascinating.
Yeah.
Marla Gibbs was interviewed by Emmy TV legends, and numerous clips of her recounting the series are on YouTube. Here she is reflecting on Isabel Sanford, and then Elva and I discuss one of Isabel's most memorable performances on The Jeffersons.
Isabel was the queen, your liege. They call her your liege, and I call her your legi. Florence would mess up anything that she was saying. And Isabel was really the star of the show. Isabel would have been a Florence, but that wasn't her role on the show, because Isabel was a comedian, and she loved doing comedy. But she was now the star of the show, and her role was to bring all of us together, which she did very well. But she's a very funny lady.
One of the episodes was, and the doorknobs shined like diamonds. Wheezy found out that her childhood home was going to be torn down, and she went back to go in and, you know, and have some memories about that time. That was the best episode. There were 5 other Black women in that episode. One played her cousin. One played Louise as a child. She had memories of her mother and how she thought that her sister was the favorite in the family. And it was just very emotional. And she just was wonderful.
Yes, Isabel Sanford was phenomenal. And listeners, we will include in the show notes that particular episode, because I haven't seen it, or if I did, it was a long time ago. And it might resonate more today in 2023 than we even understand it could have back almost 50 years ago. Yes. And Isabel Sanford, to carry that level of acting and that sort of in-depth experience and make it meaningful in a sitcom, although certainly Norman Lear's episodes sometimes bordered on the serious. Isabel Sanford, she actually came out of theater and gave it up for a while, like she was just a working woman for a while. And then by arriving in LA, she re-entered TV and film and was actually in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's an incredible movie, and you almost aren't surprised to see her there, to then playing Louise Jefferson, which was not a regular interpretation of a Black woman, a successful Black woman in business. She was in business with her husband, whether she ever thought she was a part of the business. She definitely was, given how much advice she would give him.
Exactly.
And it is Isabel Sanford who was the first Black woman, the first woman of color to win an Emmy in the leading actress in a sitcom award.
For Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, the nominees are
Eileen Brennan, Taxi, Thy Boss's Wife; Catherine Damon, Soap; Catherine Hellmond, Soap; Lynn Redgrave, House Calls; Isabel Sanford, The Jeffersons.
And the winner is Isabel Sanford.
At last. Excuse me, a piece of cheese in my mouth. I wasn't expecting this. See, I've waited so long, all my humility is just gone. Now, I'm only going to name two names. The two names are, I want to thank God. And thank Norman Lear for hiring me. Now, the other thank yous will be in general. I would love to thank everyone that has worked with the Jeffersons from the inception of the Jeffersons. They contributed to this moment. Then I would like to thank our producers, our writers, the office staff, they told me to say that, our cameramen, crew, sound, and a cast that can't be beat no place in this world. And I want to thank my family, my children, and my friends, and the Academy. Thank you.
Moving across these four main characters, because even though you don't really get into the social relevance of these characters, the fact that the women who were playing them were so accomplished. Roxy Roker was not a stranger to being in a mixed marriage because she was in a mixed marriage. And for those keeping score at home, Roxy Roker is the mother of Lenny Kravitz and the grandmother of Zoe Kravitz.
Yes.
So Roxy Roker, listeners, she's been gone a long time, 1995, but she did have a BFA from Howard University, and she was accomplished by the time she was cast. Marla Gibbs, who not only was in The Jeffersons, but then also in 227, and also stepped away from The Jeffersons to be in her own spinoff that didn't quite work out, but 227 landed and became its own hit. And Marla did not ever win an Emmy for her role, but she has been a multiple winner of the NAACP Image Awards, which from that organization and the significance of that award, you look at who else has won that, and it is a distinct honor, no question.
Yes.
Loyal listeners will know that I highly appreciate the decades worth of interviews that have been preserved by Emmy TV legends, or a channel it's now known as Foundation Interviews. Whoever you are who did that, I am behind you 100%. All of them are on YouTube at these channels, and of all the characters of the Jeffersons, Zara Cully, Mother Jefferson, who passed away during season 2 in real life, and of course then they had to eliminate her character on the TV series. Well, she delivered zingers with such comic golden timing, like Betty White style timing. Cully was a veteran of the stage, yet she earned her notoriety as Mother Jefferson. Isabel Sanford recounts her professional friendship with Cully.
Tell me about Zara Cully. She played Mother Jefferson.
Dear Zara. I knew her a few years before she got into All in the Family. And she used to, whenever we run across each other, actors for auditions and what have you, you run across each other and all. And she used to say, Isabel, if ever you have to have a mother to play someone to play your mother, call me. Please call me. I said, I certainly will. I certainly will. So when we finally got her, she was my mother-in-law. That was close. That was close. She played my mother-in-law. I said, I don't think you could get any closer than that. When she get the script, when we get the script, we can see Tuesday was what? That was tape night. Wednesday, she get the new script, and we read the script. And she said, oh, I have to be mean to you again this week. I said, if you want your job, you'll be mean to me this week and every other week.
So, folks, if you're listening and you're kind of thinking, I need a good holiday or Father's Day gift or Mother's Day or whatever gift for somebody who's perhaps a little older, here's your opportunity, whether they read books on their digital device or they like the old version paper kind. This is it for you. The Jeffersons, a fresh look back featuring episodic insights, interviews, just like we've gotten here today, and a peek behind the scenes and photos as well of the Jeffersons. 11 seasons, some of the best TV that ever landed into primetime, and Elva Green puts it all together for you. Elva, we have been so happy to have you with us today. How do people get a hold of you after they've read the book and love it? How do people find you?
I'm at Facebook. I am on Instagram, and I have an author page on Amazon. If you put in my titles of my books, you can see that.
And you're on Twitter, too.
And I'm on Twitter. Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's where I see you most, but I've just started following you on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your story with us today. And we look forward to whatever that next book is. I was listening closely. You've got another one in the works. Are you able to share with us what that is? And does it have anything to do with TV and women?
It's Maud. It's called, my title at the moment is Right on Maud.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, when that crosses the printing press, we will have you back.
All right, Cynthia. Thank you so much.
Why is it important to think about the Jeffersons? Because it balanced representation of a Black family with another Norman Lear production, Good Times. They were very different families. Yet Lear's assembled casts only have good things to say about the culture and the invitation to collaborate that made these shows the best that they could possibly be, drawing in such incredible talent. Look back at any episode and you see predominantly stage-trained actors literally performing like it was a play. Try and hunt down Isabel Sanford's performance in the episode Elva mentioned, The Doorknobs Shined Like Diamonds. There's very little new TV coming out from any source that has acting as polished as Sanford's. So regardless of when you listen to this episode, The Jeffersons must be streaming somewhere. I really encourage you to find that episode. My thanks to Elva Green for the interview and to Mary Lou Morose for stitching together clips for a truly seamless story in these two episodes. Our music is Take Me Higher by Jazzer and is found at freemusicarchive.org. Head over to tvherstory.com for more about the podcast, our social media handles, and sign up for our monthly e-newsletter. And do not worry, your email will never be sold or shared. The Jeffersons' plots often focused on a conflict or situation that we know to be universal, that it's something that can be applied to any race or gender or income status. Those stories help us find our common ground, and that seems to be in incredibly short supply today. It's not enough to know that there are stories out there, but seemingly we now need to remind each other that universal stories bring the world together, and that there was never a more effective vehicle than American TV to do this. Isn't that amazing? That American TV's impact is truly worldwide. This is why I podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams.